Yes, there will be baseball. After a 99-day lockout, we now have a complete 162-game schedule starting with opening day on April 7th. To celebrate the return of baseball, we want to do a wow promotion, so here we go. The first 50 customers will get the full season of MLB, including the playoffs, for just over $3 per day. How much of a wow is this? MLB through the All-Star break is priced at $7.95, and through the World Series is priced at $1,095. But the first 50 customers can get MLB through the World Series for $6.99. No coupon is needed, and this comes out to just over $3 per day. Once we hit 50 redemptions, the super early bird discount will come down, and the lowest possible price to lock in baseball will no longer be available. So act fast before you get shut out on our biggest price drop ever.
Here we go. Day 2 of the NCAA tournament. It's Friday, March 18th, day 1 under our belts. And it was a great day 1. Some huge upsets that we'll talk about here. And of course, more importantly, more games to come. We got a big card for Friday night. Going to look at one of those games right here on the show. And then also a couple advanced Saturday games for the round of 32, which starts this weekend. Before we get to all that, though, let's look at today's lineup. And we, of course, have myself, Steve Merrill, hosting from WagerTalk.com. We got Brian Leonard and Tony Finn, but we've got a special guest at the top of the box, Carlos Boozer, 2001 national champs with the Duke Blue Devils. Also a long, great NBA career that spanned several different teams, including, you think of him with the Chicago Bulls, but Brian Leonard's all excited, a Cleveland native, because don't forget about those days with the Cavs. And Carlos, I wore, some Duke blue for you today, but I just realized in my prop section back here, I've got a Carolina dunk ball. So I will do the correct thing here, and I'll let the Georgetown ball stay, and my Lady Blair,
no worries.
Spider 7th grade middle school ball stay. But this ball, we'll put that to the side. We're going to talk about Carolina later.
No worries. I got good memories of Carolina. I went 7-1 in my career against Carolina, so I got good memories there. No worries.
Exactly what I was going to say. I was like, I think it turned out all right for you and Duke in the days in the early 2000s there. But Carlos, welcome to the show. Lots to talk about. What was your take, though, day 1? Kentucky going down as a 2 seed. I guess that gets maybe the Duke Blue Devils a little more focused tonight, maybe?
I mean, that was the biggest upset yesterday, right? There were some other ones. Iowa going down was a surprise as well. But Kentucky, a lot of people had Kentucky in their Final Four. That's how good that Sheedway had been playing. Calipari had some good guards around them. But, that team, they just were ready. They played terrific. And how good was Shaheen Holloway back in the day? And to see his son out there, and that team had so much poise, especially down the stretch of that game, and to come across with a win. Awesome upset. That's what the tournament's about. I love all the upsets and the Cinderella teams, and terrific game yesterday.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm in Virginia, right outside of Richmond, and that was another big upset yesterday because a 12 seed beating a 5. We've seen it happen 14 of the last 16 years, but they were a 9.5, 10-point underdog. So that was not your typical 12-5 upset. And a lot of people, I know a lot of the talking heads had Iowa also in their Final Four as a 5 seed.
Right.
So both Kentucky and Iowa go down. We're going to look at the Duke game here in a couple of moments with Carlos. I want to get his take on if they bounce back off that ACC loss last week. Before we do so, though, let's look at our WagerTalk.com crew. Brian Leonard. Brian, you dominate college hoops. You dominate the NBA. You dominate NHL. What else you got going for Friday at WagerTalk.com?
Yeah, we still got some plays left. Got Ohio State going right now. Looking good, although I wish I had the under in that one. It's a bricklaying contest. But, I still have 4 plays up on tonight's card, 1 NBA and 3 college basketball. And I'm looking for another exciting day. And for anybody out there in Las Vegas, we are going to be at the Westgate later on today. So stop on by, pick up some swag, and meet everybody that works for the company.
Yeah, I forgot all about the special party tonight. Tony Finn, you're in Vegas as well. 2 to 7 at the Westgate Superbook. Meet and greet with the WagerTalk.com crew. And Kelly in Vegas said officially last hour, I was doing with Teddy Covers, Wager Talk today. It's an open bar. The tab's on Wager Talk. So this could get ugly tonight. And Tony Finn, if you're there in person, it might get uglier. What's going on, Tony?
I will be there. I got 4 or 5 hours left, I guess, before I head that way. If I'm still alive, I will be there. without doubt. So it'll be fun to do some trash talking among us, and I'm still fully loaded. I have 7 games from today and into tomorrow that have already been lined after yesterday's results. And in the NBA, yet to officially put the rubber stamp on it, but I have 3 games that are tentative, but I believe they'll go ready, set, go by the time the show's over.
And Carlos, hopefully you will not find this out in the next 20-some minutes, but Tony Finn is always fully loaded, and he is a character. You will see that here in the next few minutes to come. Let's get to it, guys. Let's look at a Friday night game. We're going to do 3 Saturday games, but I was like, look, we got Carlos Boozer on, Duke alum, national champ. I got to get his take on the Friday night game between Cal State Fullerton and his Duke Blue Devils. Now, Carlos, I know you're bullish on Duke to win the national championship. I think you made a small little wager on them. You can tell us more about that. But more importantly, I don't think it's a question if they win this game tonight, but do they win by more than 18 and a half? What's your take, Carlos?
Yeah, I do. I mean, my big thing on Duke is they got terrific players on both sides of the ball. They're a juggernaut. Obviously, they got Paolo Banchero, who's a top 3 pick in the draft. They got Wendell Moore, who's their captain, their veteran junior guard. They got 2 other freshmen, Trevor Keels, who's like a pit bull at point guard, and A.J. Griffin, who's really emerged as a terrific scoring threat, defensive threat for this team. And then they got Mark Williams, who's the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. So in my personal opinion, they've had the biggest spotlight on them all season. This being Coach K's last year. Every game has been, monumental. They've been under the microscope. It's been magnified every game. They've had tons of pressure. They lost that Carolina game at Duke, and Coach K's last game, they lost an ACC championship title game to Virginia Tech, who also is a sleeper team in this tournament as an 11 seed, just to take note of that. But this team is the great thing about those 2 losses is that they got a chance. There's more basketball to be played. So what happens when you have 2 tough losses, especially one coming out of a championship situation? You get a chance to go back in the lab, watch film, go to practice. You get a chance to learn from your mistakes while you still have basketball games to be played. So I know Coach K got those guys ready. He's one of the best guys to prepare with into a tournament. So I think they're going to do a great job tonight, be phenomenal defensively, which is the biggest key for them. If they can play great defense, they could be in the Final Four, especially with Kentucky going down. Gonzaga struggled 2/3 of that game there, so they ended up opening up at the end of that game. Gonzaga doesn't look necessarily as dominant as we thought they would in their first game. So I feel like the Blue Devils have a phenomenal chance. As long as they play great defense, they should definitely cover the spread.
Yeah, and Brian, you got to wonder too, with Kentucky going down yesterday as an 18-point favorite, does that not wake these other 1 and 2 seeds up? And like you said, Carlos, Gonzaga didn't look good yesterday either. That was a tight game mid-second half, and that very misleading, what was a 21-point win. I mean, that was a 2-basket game for the majority of the time. So Brian Leonard, WagerTalk.com, what's your take on this game tonight? Duke is the big favorite. Not if they're going to win, but do they cover?
Yeah, the Gonzaga situation was they got the other team in so much foul trouble, and they didn't have any big guys. So they just went into the 2 big guys they had, and that was a dominating performance at that point. But, for this game right here, Duke's been a team that it sometimes has underperformed, and but I made the line about 17 and a half, so I don't think I have enough to play here. But Carlos made a good point. Duke suffered some losses late in the season. I think that has them focused here. As for the momentum on seeing another team lose, I think that's good. I've never played in the area that Carlos has, so he knows a lot more about that than I do. But you would think that it would wake some people up. And you take a look at the shot quality numbers, which I talk a lot about. If the Kentucky and St. Peter's shoots the ball the way they normally do from the sights on the court and defend it that way, Kentucky wins in a blowout. They just didn't have a good shooting day, and the opposition in St. Peter's had that, and that's what happens in a 1-game series. Anything can happen. It's different than in baseball when you get 7 games to play. It's one and done in the tournaments, and you just find a Kentucky team that just did not play well. And a lot of that comes down to what you've done on the season and have you been in those kind of situations before. And I think that's one of the things that's always been the concern about Gonzaga is they run away with their division and they're in their conference, and all of a sudden they got to get into games against tougher competition. They don't play a lot of that, so that's why they haven't had the success in the tournament a lot of people have thought. But I made this line 17 and a half, So I don't see much of an advantage here. So I'll be passing on this one, but I'll be rooting for Duke for Carlos.
I
Yeah,
appreciate
it's
that.
funny. It's like I'll be rooting for Duke as well because I won't be involved. Duke is the only way I would play this one, though, guys. It's funny, Brian. I made my line 17 as well, and Tony Finn, you're paying a premium with Duke. That's not a surprise.
No,
Everyone said, hey, they can't lose their final game against Carolina. They can't lose the final ACC tournament game with Coach K, and you're paying a premium because of that. And Duke, despite going 8-2 straight up the last 10, they've only gone 3-7 against the spread.
yeah,
And Brian and I are both saying this line is about a basket too high, half a basket too high. With that said, though, Tony, hard for me not to play Duke in this one if you're playing it. As Brian also said, the 3-point shot's a great equalizer nowadays. Cal State
yeah,
Fullerton only takes 24% of their points from three. That's only 336 out of 358 teams in Division
yeah.
One. So they are not a 3-point team. Hard for me to see
No,
them beating Duke otherwise.
no. They're going to be a 3-point shooting team today. They just don't have playmakers. They do not have the playmakers inside to compete with Duke. And listen, this is Coach K and the Duke orbit against the world. It happens possibly for the last time, and it's a great day. It's a great moment for many, and equally as sad as well because it's just something you're going to miss every single year, not just in this tournament, but throughout the college season. This roster, it's good enough that if Coach K wanted to take the attitude, it's national championship or bust, who would begrudge him for that? It's not ever been his style, I don't think. But the Achilles comes into play with this game. This team's really young. They have a few seniors who will make their appearances, but this rotation is a 6-deep junior Wendell Moore and a group of, the saying would be, young and full of energy. Kids. Cal State Fullerton, young kid. They have some sophomores in the mix too, but they're a 4-man senior with some juniors mixed in per se. And if the Devils are focused here today and they want to play defense and they do they step up their game and they do, the Titans are going to have a lot of problems scoring the basketball. They're going to gamble on defense. They're ultra aggressive defensively. And if Duke gets out and runs a little bit too, I think it's going to be up and down game, although that's not what Fullerton wants. It is the best case for Duke to win by 20 plus, which I think they do today. I have no problem laying this number in this situation, in this game. And Fullerton's going to try to generate a bunch of steals. They'll either be successful or they won't. I don't think they're going to be successful. Duke's offense is going to stay in rhythm, and it's going to be a great first game in this 2022 tournament for the Dukies.
Yeah, I think we're in consensus here. We all like Duke. It's Duke or pass. Lay it if you're going to
Another
play it. And
another point I want to make to y'all: the games are in Greenville, South Carolina. That's basically a home game for the Blue Devils. The whole building is going to be blue, so keep that in mind.
That's a great point, Carlos. And it's technically not a home state, but I ran these numbers years ago, and it was about a blind play on the home state teams. It was a moneymaker against the spread for decades. And obviously, that's the same situation here. And yeah, I don't think there'll be many Cal State Fullerton fans in 1 or 2 days' notice getting those cross-country airfare tickets right now. So that is a home game for Duke. And before we move on to Saturday, Carlos, I want to ask you about your Duke futures bet, though. A little birdie told me you got a little chunk of change on Duke. So you're backing your opinions with some money, which I respect. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Put my money where my mouth is at. I bet 50 grand on Duke. It was a 12-1 bet. Payout would be 600,000 if they win the whole thing. I told you the reasons why earlier. I think they're going to be, very motivated to send Coach out on a high note. They've had so much pressure on them all year long, and I think that pressure has prepared them for this moment where, like you guys said, it's win or go home. It's not a series like in the NBA playoffs, not like baseball. You win and you go home, and they've had that kind of pressure. Every loss, they've had 5 losses this year. Every loss was like disappointing, or oh my God, it was so over dramatic because it's Coach K's last season. So because of that, I think they're well prepared for this. I partnered up with PointsBet, placed a $50,000 bet on Duke. PointsBet is the home of live betting offers and the most live options among betting apps. PointsBet also is the only app that offers live same-game parlay bets. And we also partner together with Playmaker, as they have a huge social media presence to promote this bet live and bring it to life. So I'm excited. I think the Blue Devils have a phenomenal chance. They have a potential second-round matchup with Michigan State, which would have that great Izzo versus Coach K, two icons of college basketball in the second round to get to the Sweet 16, which I think would be an awesome way to debut that and see that rivalry and that championship. Because you also remember when they had Zion, the last time they faced Michigan State in the Elite Eight, Michigan State kicked Zion and the Blue Devils out the tournament. So it would kind of be like one of those revenge games that just took a couple years to manifest. But very excited about this tournament.
Yeah, and they'll get the winner of that Davidson-Michigan State game. And then, of course, if they get by them, most likely Texas Tech, I think, is who they're going to meet in that 2-3 game. And that's a team that was in the national finals a couple years ago against another ACC team. Virginia took them to overtime. And then, of course, Gonzaga in that bracket. So you're going to earn that 12-1 payoff, and you're getting a nice price because Gonzaga's in that bracket. Carlos, let me ask you real quick before we move on to Saturday's games. Would you consider hedging at any point if it's a Duke-Gonzaga matchup down the road?
Maybe. You know, the thing that you brought up a great point earlier when we discussed Gonzaga. They play kind of a cakewalk season, right? They don't really get tested very much. They got tested earlier against Duke in Las Vegas. Duke beat them in that game, and Duke's better now than they were then. I also think Gonzaga's better now than they were then as well. But that first matchup that we saw last night, Gonzaga, I really wasn't impressed by Gonzaga. I felt like, you know, just to the point that was made earlier, their bigs got in foul trouble. They kind of ran out of gas at the end of that game. They went to two extremely talented guys. Chet is probably the number one pick in the draft. And Timmy's got some of the best footwork of any big in college basketball, plus his experience. So they ended up pulling away at the end of that game. But I think Gonzaga is very beatable. So I may not hedge my bet. I may just take Duke straight up in that one. If it ends up lining up and they play each other in the Elite Eight to get to the Final Four, I think Duke has a great chance in that matchup. Duke's very physical at times. You know, they got John coming off the bench, who's he's like a Aquaman Part 2, if you will. So I feel like there's a great build up to get to that Elite Eight game. You got a great game tonight with Cal State. You got a potential matchup with Michigan State, who's another physical. They got some grown men over there since the portal transfer. You can transfer guys now. They can play right away. And then, like you said, a potential matchup with either Texas Tech or possibly Alabama to get to the Elite Eight. And then you have that potential matchup with Gonzaga. So it's like a build-up where you're gradually getting confidence as you win some close games, as you get to that moment. And then in the Final Four, you know, who knows if they get that far. That other side of the bracket is very interesting now with Kentucky getting out. You know, a Baylor team, for example, has to go up against a hot Carolina team who played terrific. That was one of the best games I saw them play yesterday. Everybody that played in that Tar Heel uniform looked terrific. R.J. Davis had 12 assists. Caleb Love was knocking down threes from everywhere. Manick had 28 and 11. One of his best games as he's played in the Tar Heel uniform. And then again, Armando Bacot is one of the most underrated, dominant bigs that we have in the country. Logged in his 26 double-double yesterday. I think the Tar Heels have a good chance of beating Baylor tomorrow night. So I'm looking forward to that matchup. We could see a Duke UNC Final Four, which would be amazing as well.
I'll tell you what, you know, let's stick with that UNC Baylor game because I wanted to talk about that one. And I'll throw it to you, Brian. And Carlos, you know, you brought up a great point about Kentucky getting bounced because that would be the semifinal bracket they face. That's Baylor, Kentucky, Purdue, I think is vulnerable as well. UCLA almost got bumped by Akron as the 4 seed there. So Duke got some help if they can get by Gonzaga. And as you said, they beat them already this year, and they're more experienced now. So I like where you're going with that. Brian Leonard, let's look at one of the Saturday games. Carlos just said he thinks North Carolina's a live dog. I don't necessarily disagree. I think they're a very dangerous team. You know, they had that big win against Duke to finish the regular season. I think maybe a little bit of a hangover in the ACC tournament, which is understandable. They also had to play a slower pace Virginia Tech team, which also gave Duke trouble. That's my concern here, though, is that Baylor can play that half-court grinding style, but they don't do it like they did the last couple years. They're a faster-paced team this season. Brian Leonard, what's your take on this one Saturday?
Yeah, you mentioned the pace for Baylor. In transition, they ranked 35th in offensive shot quality, points per possession. So they're a team this year that really does score in that regard. And you've got a North Carolina team defensively in that situation in transition, ranked 276. So Baylor has the ability to get out and run. The problem is that they're not a very deep team, so they got to stay out of foul trouble. You know, Baylor's a team defensively. They're 12th against defensively in the half court And North Carolina has been one of those teams that they haven't really had an identity when it comes to the playing in the half court of the transition. But this North Carolina team has really gotten a lot better from a shot quality standpoint as the season's gone on. They've been very strong as of late. The problem you have is I think the Baylor's the better team, but you've got a North Carolina team that is coming on strong, but they've been very inconsistent. And that's always a concern. I could see North Carolina winning this game. I could see Baylor winning it by double digits. I like this Baylor team. They're fourth in the country in adjusted shot quality offensively. Overall, third offensively, and then the 24th defensively. So they're a solid team. They've been there before. It's just two really good teams going here. North Carolina is a team that's just improving. And do we bet on the team here that's just finding it all at the right time in North Carolina, or do we take the team that coming into the season, Baylor had to have been one of the teams you were looking to win it all? This one could go either way. I'm still thinking about this one myself, but it's not going to be in my card.
Yeah, Tony Finn. I mean, this is a Baylor team
Yeah.
that's been without two of their top 8 players for the last couple
Yes.
months, but they
Yeah.
keep finding a way to win for the most part. What's your take on this game?
I'll be short with this one. That is, Baylor benefited from some championship game or some tournament championship postseason losses. They benefited from Kentucky losing. I personally don't think Baylor is the number 1 seed. Too many injuries, Cryer, et cetera, et cetera. This is a team that really they're going to play some defense. They're still not the same team last couple 3 years. Obviously, they were, especially off last year's championship run. They are still the world college basketball's world champions until someone dethrones them. And this is one of those games that I think it can happen. They just can North Carolina play enough defense, and can they stop what Baylor can do from the 3 line? That's the question. But if I'm in this room, guys, tomorrow on this game, it would be on the ex-Roy's boys over this Big 12 Baylor club.
And Carlos, it looks like you're agreeing with UNC. I guess I might be passing you this ball, and I can't pass it while I've broken so many cameras here at the props section. But this game, by the way, Carlos, is in Fort Worth. So we talked about home state advantage. So that could be a little something favoring Baylor. But you like UNC in that, I guess, right?
I just think they played so well yesterday. I was really impressed by how they came out in that 8-9 game. I really don't feel like Carolina's an 8 seed, so to speak. I mean, that's a tough matchup. You got to play against this kind of a team, and they're playing some of their best basketball right now. Hubert Davis took this team over from Warren Williams, decided to retire, and it took them time to get used to his new system, to get used to his new voice, his new coaching style. But they've played really well of late, and yesterday's game was the best I've seen them play all season. They were consistent from tip to finish. So I'm going because I think they have a huge advantage in the interior. I think Baycott is underrated. I think he's a phenomenal big man. I think Manick, being the stretch four that he is, had a phenomenal first game of the tournament. I think those two can really cause problems, and I'm interested to see if the momentum of R.J. Davis and Caleb Love can compete with the Baylor guards, who we know are terrific.
Yeah, I think this could be one of the best games this weekend, to be honest, because I kind of agreed with you, Carlos. I wasn't sure Baylor was really a true 1 seed, even being the defending national champs. And I think North Carolina was underseeded in that 8-9. And they always kind of punish teams when they put them in an 8-9. They almost rather be like an 11 seed because you got that 1 seed, even if you win. And speaking, guys, of 11 seeds, I thought this was a very dangerous 11 seed, and that's the Michigan Wolverines. This is a team, when the season began, I believe was top 4 in the nation. They were penciled in as a 1 seed when the season began. And a lot of people weren't even sure they were going to make the tournament. Not only did they make it, they weren't even a first 4 team. They made it solid as an 11 seed, and they were a 2-point favorite in their upset of number 6 seed, right? So here we go again, a live dog perhaps. Brian Leonard, I'll ask you first. Tennessee is a team I liked a lot last year, and they got bumped in the first round. Obviously, they did not overlook my Longwood Lancers here from Virginia. I thought Longwood was a joke of a 14 seed. A lot of people thought Tennessee should have been a 2. I agreed. But what I said was the committee did them a favor, giving them a very weak 14 seed in Longwood. They were an 18-point favorite. They rolled yesterday on Thursday. Brian Leonard, what's your take on this Tennessee-Michigan matchup on Saturday?
You mentioned that they were one of the teams that a lot of people think they didn't deserve to be in. Once again, yesterday we saw it again. Teams that or on the cusp, but a lot of people are thinking they're not very good, always seem to come out and cover these games in the first round. And it's a situation where obviously they think they're better than the opposition is. And that's a great rallying point by the coaching staff. Look at all the people that think that we shouldn't even be here. Let's show them that we deserve to be here. And it worked out again yesterday. So that's always something you got to take advantage of. And Michigan's one of those teams that you started the year, they were one of the top teams, and then they just didn't play as well. And then we had the unfortunate situation at Michigan in the one game. But this is a team in Michigan. They're very good. But my only concern is when you look at their offense, they're not a very good offensive team. They're 61st in transition, which isn't bad, but they're 51st in post-up. And when you take a look at the shot types, they don't finish at the rim very well, but they do post up. They're 51st. But when you take a look at Tennessee, they defend the post-up 22nd. In fact, you'd have a hard time finding anything that isn't positive about this Tennessee defense, although they are 192nd in transition. But that's not really what Michigan does. Michigan likes to send it right down to the big guys and let them do the work. And that's the concern here because this Tennessee defense is so good. You look at them all the way through, number 6 against the half court this year, defensive shot quality, points per possession, number 6 against the pick and roll screen, 14th in isolation. So I think it's a little bit of a struggle of a matchup offensively for Michigan. So I prefer the Tennessee side. I don't like to lay this type of number against a team that's really hot right now, and they're a public type of team. But I'm going to get to the total for my best bet. But at this number, I'm going to pass on the side, but I'll get to the total with the best bet.
Yeah, we will have the best bet segment coming up here in a few moments. And Carlos, I think you've got one for us as well. I'm looking forward to that. But before I get your thoughts on this Michigan game, I want to see what Tony Finn thinks.
Yeah.
Tony, Michigan currently a 6-point dog. So Tennessee a 6-point favorite. They've been red hot. They have won 13 of their last 14 straight up. They've won 8 in a row. They've covered 6 of those 8. So are the odds makers catching up finally, or is there still value with Tennessee?
That's listen. I like Tennessee. I've liked them all season. Have made a little pocket change with Tennessee. Michigan. Listen, Howard and company. They've regrouped after some early season scuffles, and if you looked at and you watched it, you saw yesterday Colorado State come out really strong, really confident. They have talent inside and out. This Colorado State team, outside of Fort Collins, they're not quite what they are. At the altitude there, especially outside of the Mountain West. But they have the best player on the floor, I think, David Roddy. In the end, the Rams could not handle what Michigan brings in the paint. And this doesn't change a whole lot. I'm telling you right now, it does not change a whole lot for this game against Tennessee. Michigan, a plus 11 rebounding margin, 54% shooting, despite finding some rebounds in the first 20 minutes. And I liked what I saw. And the Wolverines talked to a lot of people yesterday about how they closed strong, confident, a great effort. And most of them respected what they saw and think it's promising. Most I talked to, and I mean most I really respect, like Michigan and the points tomorrow. I wouldn't argue. I mean, Tennessee's going to battle on the boards. However, and that's probably going to be, in my opinion, that's really the difference in this game. Tennessee's not going to shoot 58%. This isn't Longwood. This is Michigan. And really, it's a great name. It's great to put up in the headlights tomorrow when everybody's getting ready to watch Michigan and Tennessee. Michigan isn't Longwood, guys. Michigan they're just okay guarding that 3 line, which is an issue if Tennessee's hitting. But Tennessee's not going to shoot like they did against Longwood. And I like Michigan advancing as an underdog.
Carlos, Michigan has alternated wins and losses their last 11 games, even with the 5 when Juwan Howard was out with Martell as the interim coach. One thing, though, they did start to play faster, and a lot of people I've talked to feel like this is a team that's better when they're playing up-tempo, playing more to their abilities, and maybe that's why they struggled a bit this year. Hey, look, Juwan Howard. I think you probably consider him a friend, right? So I definitely want to get your take on this. Do you think that was a rallying point maybe when he got suspended? How do you think this game plays out on Saturday?
I think it's going to be a good one. I think, first of all, Juwan's a very close friend of mine, been a mentor of mine for a long time in the NBA and just in life in general. So I'm excited for him. They got a great one yesterday against a very good Colorado State team. I personally feel like they play better when they're in transition. They got good guard play. They can get up and down. They can finish on the break. They got a terrific big inside who's got good footwork and soft hands. Unfortunately, I'm rooting for Jawan. I just think this Tennessee team is a bunch of grown-ass men, and I like how they play. They're very physical. They're very, I don't know, they're very efficient. This is a team that could cut the nets down, in my opinion. I think they have a great bracket on that side. They beat some really good teams to finish the season. Obviously, they got great momentum. This is a team that a lot of my friends have in their Final Four, and a team that can win the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you are bullish on Tennessee actually because they're in my Final Four, so that's good news, and hopefully you're right on that. So do you like Tennessee minus the 5.5, -6? Do you think they get enough to
I
win by
do. Yeah,
margin?
I would take that bet. I would take that bet. Yeah. I think they're more
That,
complete. It's just my personal opinion. I think they're more complete than Michigan, even though I'm always going to root for my boy Jawan Howard. I just think Tennessee is a step up from where the Wolverines are right now. And they're playing great basketball. I mean, they have convincing wins. So they're a team that I could definitely see in the Final Four.
and as I said, they've alternated wins and losses. Michigan's gone win-loss for their 6-5, their last 11. Hard to win a national championship alternating wins and losses, and they're going to be a 6-point dog, it looks like, tomorrow on Saturday. So, look, that's a look at the Friday night game, 2 Saturday games. Now I want to know if all of you guys like any of these games a little bit better than others or have a secret best bet. I'll give Carlos a couple moments to think about it since he's our first-time guest. Let me start off with you, though, Brian Leonard. Give us a play maybe on the total in this Tennessee-Michigan game that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough offensive game for Michigan. And Carlos is right. They're 61st in transition. They just don't defend the transition very well. But yeah, from a standpoint of the total, I think it's a big advantage for Tennessee here on the under. You take a look at certain teams do certain things, and just from a turnover percentage standpoint, Michigan ranks 326th in the country, 13% defensive turnovers. They're not a team that's going to turn you over, but you also take a look at a team in Tennessee who's ranked 12th in that regard at 20%. They just play some really tough defense. Carlos mentioned it's men against boys in this one to me. Michigan, I talked about, they want to post you up. That's part of there's probably, other than transition, that's probably the best thing they do. But that's what Tennessee does. They defend the post-up plays. So they're 22nd in the country, where Michigan was, I believe, 51st offensively on the post-up. So other than that, I don't think this Michigan team's a very good shooting team, and they're going to be pressured against the ball all day long by this Tennessee defense. I think this game stays under the total. The only way it goes over, there's a lot of fouling at the end, which is always a concern. So maybe Tennessee in the first half would be a better play on the under. But I'm going to take this under the 136.5 for my best bet on this show.
Yeah, you definitely always worry about the foul, the free throws down the stretch. It's impossible to predict. If it's a 6-point spread, there's no key numbers in basketball, guys, like in football, where 3 or 7 are very critical numbers. But there's some talk that 7 is the magic number in the NBA and college, because after that they don't foul as much. So 6 gets you a little worried about that. So first half though is off. Split your play as well. So Brian Leonard likes the under for Saturday, Michigan and Tennessee, under 136. Tony Finn, give us a best bet we can look at for either Friday or Saturday.
I'll make it quick so we can get to the important people on this panel. You, Boozer, and Brian, of course. I'm going to go to UCLA and St. Mary's tomorrow. I like this matchup, and I like the fact that everybody's high on UCLA. Not that UCLA isn't capable. We all know that they are capable. You talk about a team that's built for kind of tournament play. They have a couple guys that can they create their shots. If you watch some UCLA late in the season, even that Arizona game, if you watch that Arizona game, how exciting is it to see UCLA in a big time matchup? And St. Mary's isn't small. Sleep on this Australian 2 states outlet, and you'll be making a mistake. The Gales don't try to score. They don't try to move fast. They take their time to deliver it. They wear, grind. And but if you think they can't score, how about what they did against Indiana? They took advantage. Indiana was coming off some a short turnaround and a pretty good first 4 in game. And what did they do? They shot the 3. Threw it up in 21 times, I think, hit 10 of them, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, then the defense does the rest for this Murray's team. However, if there's one constant when Cronin's involved is that if you sleep on his kids, you made a mistake. This is a team that's going to bring it, and again, that is exciting to watch offensively with some of the playmakers. They don't crank it up offensively, guys. They don't run. They don't do anything that is absolutely outlandish, other than some of the things that these guys can do in an isolation offense. It's good stuff. I like watching it. This UCLA defense is as good as St. Mary's, and they're better offensively. They have better playmakers, and St. Mary's was a great first game, but time for you to go home and for Cronin to move on.
Yeah, and also as a wake-up call for UCLA, as they were very close to losing that game outright yesterday as a 13.5-point dog to Akron. And Gold Sheet actually had it as a play of the day. We're going to get to the Gold Sheet play of the day in just a moment, but I want to find out, Carlos Boozer, if you've got a best bet for us on either Friday, Saturday's card. It doesn't even have to be college hoops. I mean, you want to go to auto racing or golf. I don't know what else you handicap, but give us something we can use to make some money in the near future.
I got a little bit of an upset. I think today's game, Miami versus USC. I know a lot of people are picking USC. They're like the tallest team in the country. They got length at every position, it feels like, and they got a lot of talent. But in my experience in tournament play, guard play is so critical. Miami has 3 awesome guards, and I think Miami is going to take down the Trojans today. I think they play at 3:10 or 3:15 or around that 3 o'clock time. They got a stud in Isaiah Wong, who's extremely athletic, very crafty with the ball, can score different ways. Charlie Moore, another guard, is one of the most clutch players that they have. He hits some clutch baskets all season long. There was a stretch during the season where the Miami Hurricanes were one of the hottest teams in the country. They ran off like 8, 9, 10 games in a row. And they have another guy named Sam McGusty who can score at different levels, threes, gets to the basket, knocks his free throws down. These 3 guards, they gamble a little bit defensively. They kind of speed you up. They trap pick and rolls. Coach Larinaga got these guys playing terrific ball. I think the Miami Hurricanes upset the USC Trojans today.
Yeah, Coach Larinaga is someone I know well from my hometown, Fairfax, Virginia, when he took George Mason to the Final Four. Was it 05, I believe? This guy knows how to win in the postseason, coaching a very underrated factor. And don't forget, USC, one of only 3 Pac-12 teams to make the tournament. UCLA, as we just talked about, didn't look so great last night. So we'll see if the Pac-12, which was supposed to be overrated last year and overperformed, is maybe a little overrated this season. So I love it, Carlos. A little bonus for our live viewers today here.
Yeah.
College basketball tip-off. That goes at 3:10 Eastern. Carlos Boozer likes Miami of Florida +2. Sprinkle a little on the money line, I would assume, as well, to probably win that game outright, he says. And I'm going to get to a play for Friday night here in just a moment. But first, let's look at the Gold Sheet play of the day. And as I mentioned, they had Akron last night plus the 13.5, covered from start to finish. Never in doubt, almost won the game outright. They've got another live dog for tonight, and that's Colgate. And what's interesting, guys, about Colgate is if you look at the Ken Palm rankings, luck and unluckiest, they were the unluckiest team to make the NCAA tournament this year, was Wisconsin was like the 3rd most lucky to make the tournament. That's just straight up win, 1 loss, 1 more games than they should have or whatnot. But still, I thought that was interesting. And the Gold Sheet is saying that Colgate is a live dog tonight on Friday, plus the points. Last I checked, it was 7.5. Colgate plus the 7.5 points. I'm going to look at a free play here for Friday night. Let's look at a college basketball Friday night game. You know, our special guest, Carlos Boozer, likes Duke. The whole panel liked Duke, and I don't disagree. I like Duke tonight as well. I thought the line was a little hefty. You're paying a premium, but I'm willing to pay that premium because the matchup is just too good to pass up. First of all, it's all about motivation when you have a big focused 1 or 2 seed, right? Make sure they're focused. The fact that Kentucky lost in this same spot last night as a 2 seed as an 18-point favorite, it's almost the identical situation. I think Duke does not overlook this game. They're also coming off a loss in the ACC tournament finals last week as a favorite. Several reasons for them to bounce back. So let's look at the matchup. Can they handle Cal State Fullerton? Yes, they can handle Cal State Fullerton. Cal State's only chance is to get lucky and hit some threes. That's how St. Peter's won last night. St. Peter's was 53% from three-point range. Kentucky was 4 for 15, 26.5%. The game still went to overtime. Kentucky had 14 more free throws, but they missed 12 of those 35 free throws. It still went to overtime. So, a lot has to go right for an 18-point dog to win. St. Peter's got that luck last night. Cal State Fullerton doesn't take threes. In fact, out of 358 teams, their percentage of three-point attempts to field goal attempts is only 337th in the nation. They rely heavily on free throw shooting, the 21st highest percentage in the country from the free throw line on points scored. Guess what? Duke's not going to put them on the free throw line. Duke doesn't allow teams to score from the free throw line. There's only 2 teams in the country that allow a lower percentage of points from the free throw line this year than Duke, and that was against a tough ACC schedule. On top of that, love the matchup here for Duke. I'm willing to give up a little bit of value. I made the line only 17, but I'll lay the 18.5. If you're going to play it, lay it with the Duke Blue Devils tonight on Friday. I've got 4 strong best bets at WagerTalk.com. I was number 1 the last 2 years in college hoops combined. I've got 4 strong ones going tonight. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. And to recap, let's look at the best bets from today's show for Friday and Saturday. We start off with some afternoon action, a special treat for the live viewers. Miami of Florida plus the 2. Sprinkle a little at plus 120 on the money line. Carlos Boozer says the Hurricanes are going to win that game outright. Brian Leonard likes a Saturday matchup in the round of 32. Michigan, Tennessee under the 136, 136.5. Maybe look a little bit of the first half as well under. Tony Finn, another Saturday game. He thinks UCLA bounces back with a better showing. Superior Conference -3 against St. Mary's. Myself, Steve Merrill, I like Duke tonight on Friday minus the 18.5. And the Gold Sheet says take a look at Colgate tonight on Friday plus 7.5 against Wisconsin. Carlos, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we can do this again in the future, maybe all the way through
Would
the
love to
tournament
anytime.
finals. Great. Appreciate to be here. Let's root on Duke tonight. We've got the Duke Blue on for our picks. Let's root Carlos on too. If they don't meet any of your teams in the round of 32, round of 16, let's root for them otherwise to get to that 12-1 payoff. 50,000 to win 600,000 would be a nice little chunk of change. If you hit that, you've got to come back and talk to us afterwards.
It'd be my pleasure, man. My pleasure.
And WagerTalk.com as well. Carlos, thanks again for joining us. Enjoy the games tonight, everybody. Hey, look, we'll be back on Monday with the next show, 1:45 Eastern live, right here on Wager Talk TV. Hey, don't forget to hit subscribe. We're inching ever so close to 100,000 subscribers. Give it a thumbs up and comment below. Let us know your thoughts on the upsets for Friday and this weekend as well. Like, subscribe, comment below. And check back each and every day right here on Wager Talk TV. Best of luck. Enjoy the games tonight.
Yes, there will be baseball. After a 99-day lockout, we now have a complete 162-game schedule starting with opening day on April 7th. To celebrate the return of baseball, we want to do a wow promotion, so here we go. The first 50 customers will get the full season of MLB, including the playoffs, for just over $3 per day. How much of a wow is this? MLB through the All-Star break is priced at $7.95, and through the World Series is priced at $1,095. But the first 50 customers can get MLB through the World Series for $6.99. No coupon is needed, and this comes out to just over $3 per day. Once we hit 50 redemptions, the super early bird discount will come down, and the lowest possible price to lock in baseball will no longer be available. So act fast before you get shut out on our biggest price drop ever.